Movies. You either love them or you hate them. I myself tend to love most movies, even when they are crap. A reviewer close to me said that she would never give 0 stars to a movie because there has been time and effort put into that production. I have now taken this on board and believe that no movie should score less than half a star. So, a few weeks ago we started with Super Mario Bros. From 1993, and tonight we're going to continue in defense of. Tonight, we are defending Assassin's Creed. Last time on In Defense Of, we looked at Super Mario Bros. From 1993 and determined it wasn't actually that bad. You can watch that video here. The lasting legacy of the film is that only 25 years later, video game movies are only just becoming good films in their own right. Or are they? Created off the back of the Prince of Persia video games, Assassin's Creed was a reaction to the changeover from the PS2 generation of consoles to the PS3. Originally a Prince of Persia spin-off game following the assassin of the prince, it evolved into a story and the franchise that we know and love today. After the game, we got a massive expansion and a time jump. A new character and a change of location. Assassin's Creed 2 became a massive release, with additional games released in subsequent years. I didn't realise until Assassin's Creed 3 came out that the games after Assassin's Creed 2 were actually still part of 2. From then on, we've had a release every year, growing to a massive 4 releases in 1 year, 2014. Not all the games were on PS3, PS4, Xbox, etc., but the content has been coming thick and fast. Then, they decided to spread themselves into movie universe. And surprisingly, it wasn't a reboot or a retelling, it was just a story within the wider Assassin's Creed universe.
Where am I?
At 6 p.m. yesterday evening, you were executed and pronounced dead.
What is the story? Is it basically the same as the video games? The answer to that is a definite yes. What is the story of the video games though? Let's get started. Assassin's Creed sees a man, Desmond Miles, in the near future being used by Abstergo to access the memories of his ancestors. He is the descendant of a line of assassins who were the enemies of the Knights Templar, whom later became Abstergo. They are rooting through the genetic memories of assassins to locate a MacGuffin. Yes, it's a MacGuffin hunt, everybody. Aren't they the best stories? The MacGuffin here is an artifact called the Pieces of Eden. These artifacts are supposed to hold great power and are to be able to control free will. Abstergo and the Knights Templar want this to rule the world. So that is the story. And what makes the story good is that the majority of the gameplay is set in the past. We live as the assassin. It follows his story as we trace back the location of the Pieces of Eden. It's clever and it makes for compelling gameplay, but unfortunately it also means that the main story is set in the present/future. This is the biggest reason why I believe Assassin's Creed the movie failed to get anything higher than 19% on Rotten Tomatoes. But having said that, Assassin's Creed was doomed from the start, but it could have had an easy fix. It actually tells a good and entertaining story. It has some nice effects and has evolved the Animus to something that makes far more sense than the lay-down pod that we see in the first game. This helps to explain the bleeding effects better than in the games. If you're physically acting out your ancestors' memories, you have synced, and that is what they want to achieve. So, if you go against what the ancestor did, that's when you desync and have to start again. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with characters. Michael Fassbender plays... no, not Desmond. He plays Callum Lynch, a murderer whose death is faked by Abstergo. The reason we don't see Fassbender playing Desmond, and why he's playing a new character, is because this movie is canon with the video games. When I first read this, I thought, how stupid. But after a while, I thought, that's actually quite clever. You can start the narrative afresh, allowing a new audience to come into the franchise. At the same time, you can build onto the already flowing story set up in the games. I would like to see how many non-gamers picked up a copy of Assassin's Creed due to this movie. Remember, despite the low tomato score, it did almost double its budget. Fassbender is a player of the game and was the studio's first choice to star. He actually said, Marion Cotillard plays Sophia Ricken, a scientist of Abstergo and the daughter of Jeremy Irons' Alan Ricken, a character who appeared in the first game. This level of detail is what makes the game accessible for the players, but doesn't exclude new moviegoers. The cast, that also includes Michael K. Williams, Brendan Gleeson, Charlotte Rampling, is one of a fairly high standard. If you read that quote from Fassbender, you'll see that he appears to be a fan of the games, that he wanted to add something new, build up the lore of the games, and make a great feature film. It's rare to have an actor be as invested in a property as this, and it's just a shame that it didn't take off as it should have done. By what he was saying, he realised that the story was set in the future, and that the past was just incidental. But unfortunately, the past needed to be at the forefront. As mentioned, the effects in this film are fairly great, and some nice action set pieces in both the future and the past. You get a chase sequence that utilises the game's parkour movements, which I would have preferred to have lasted a little bit longer, but was still very entertaining. It also features the game's signature leap of faith, which is the jump from the height that usually lands you in a hay pile. Fassbender's stunt double, Damon Walters, performed this feat rather than using CGI. He free fell from 125 feet, or 38 metres, and it is said that it's the highest free fall performed by a stuntman for almost 35 years. This level of commitment and planning is one of the reasons why this film is one of the better made video game movies of the last 25 years. The sets are all different, from the historical setting in the ancestors' memories to the angular boxed in feel of the Abstergo Foundation's facility. They do differentiate between the past and the future, and the sets look fairly good. We even have more game references and an artifact room that has details including Altair's sword from Assassin's Creed, Connor's bow from Assassin's Creed 3, Edward Kenway's flintlock pistols from Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and the cane sword of the twins Jacob and Evie Fry in Assassin's Creed Syndicate. There's also the axe and the guillotine gun of Arno Dorian from Assassin's Creed Unity. The level of this detail goes to show how much they wanted this to succeed. It would have become an amazing story that interweaves the games and the films. It would have been interesting to see if they could have carried movie elements over to the games. Maybe have a playable Callum Lynch in a game, bridging to a sequel film. As of writing, it doesn't look like there's going to be a sequel coming off the back of this film. But you could also say that we're getting sequels and prequels with every new released game. It is still part of the same narrative and cannot be taken away. They may come back to a movie in a few years, but their base is in video games, and that is where they excel. Although I haven't played an Assassin's Creed game since Black Flag. Assassin's Creed was an attempt to make a movie based on a successful series of video games. It attempted to continue the story on different medium. It did succeed, but it didn't take into account that the story is firmly set in the future. What everyone loves about the games is the gameplay in the past. However, the problem with this is that the past will always be the secondary story. The point of Assassin's Creed is for the future people to learn what happened in the past. I think audiences wanted more of the past than the future, and the future is what we got. If I was to tweak the film, it would be to set half the film in the past, use a cold open with no reference to the future at all. We are following an assassin from whichever time period it could be. We get so far into the story and we become invested in that character. And something goes wrong and the animus desinks and we are thrust into the future, and the story can progress from there, having the future character go back into the animus or whatever. Have as little story in the future as possible. But saying all that, Assassin's Creed was an entertaining, well-made film. It embraced the games and used what they had done before. It updated some elements from the games that seemed a little bit silly, and incorporated reasons for the bleeding effect. It made the animus a large movable object that protects the user from harm as they sync and act out their ancestors' memories. The film deserves a lot more praise than it gets. It tried something new, but it failed. Hopefully, it will get another chance to reload the animus and sync with the audience. I hope you've enjoyed this episode in defense of. I want this to become a regular feature of my channel. And for listeners of the Mad Movie Podcast, you'll know that we sometimes rate our movies as good James Bond films and bad James Bond films. So let's take a look at one. Thanks for watching. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Ultimate Movie Geek. I would like to make 100 subscribers as soon as possible so I can change my URL. So if you would share these videos and give me a subscribe, that would be super duper. Thank you for watching. See you later. Abstergo.